Hi there and welcome to this video. I'm here to take you through how to make the new bag that I have created with Sew Willow patterns, which is called Elizabeth. This is Elizabeth. There's two examples out for you to look at, and there's a lot of things I want to tell you about this bag which I think makes it stand apart from other bag patterns that are out there on the market right now. So the concept for the Elizabeth bag, I wanted to be able to produce a bag, design a bag for the domestic home machine. I've been making bags for quite a long time now, and I really enjoy the process, but it can sometimes feel quite frustrating when the materials we need to use simply are just not designed to go through the domestic home machine. As such, I have bought other machines, semi-industrial machines that can cope with those textiles. But I think it's really frustrating when I teach people how to make a bag and they feel like that they're failing at the first hurdle because our machines that we have at home are just simply not designed to cope with fabrics such as leather and vinyls, things like that. So this bag is designed for fabrics that are able to go through your machine at home. Whilst I can't promise that, I do feel pretty certain that it will be absolutely fine. So rest assured, you can make this machine and your machine should be able to manage with the process. The other thing that aggrieves me a little bit sometimes when I'm buying patterns is the fabric quantities that it asks you to buy. If you've had patterns in front of you, you might see sometimes that it asks you for odd amounts, odd lengths, such as 60 centimetres, 70 centimetres. And some suppliers that you go to, they just simply won't sell by the 10 centimetre increments, and then you're forced to buy 1 metre of fabric. Now, when it comes to fabrics like the oilcloths, they can be a little bit more on the pricey side. So to buy an extra 40 centimetres of something can be the difference of about £10 and upwards. So everything that is made in this bag is designed with you in mind and your purse strings, so you're not going to be wasting any money. So for example, the first thing that I'm going to tell you is that the expensive oilcloths that you might choose to buy, you only need half a metre, and that should really, if you cut it properly, leave you with a good sized piece on the end for other projects later on. The other thing to mention about your fabrics is the front pockets. All you need for these are a couple of your fat quarters. All they need to do is be a nice contrast to one another. So 2 fat quarters is going to do your front pockets just here. And then inside the bag, you need half a metre, and the half metre will do for your 2 lining pieces and then for the pockets inside. You can, of course, choose to use these fabrics, the remnants left over, to do your slip pocket that's featured inside. So making it very affordable and ideal if you want to delve into your stash and use up some of those fat quarter combinations you might have sort of lurking around in your basket. So without further ado, let me take you on a tour of the Elizabeth bag. So this is Elizabeth. And obviously you've had a good look at this now because you've chosen to download and buy the pattern, which both myself and Henry are very grateful for. So this is it. It's a lovely size bag. I will show you on me just for a bit of size. You can fit a laptop into this bag, which is amazing. The reason why I can fit it in is because I've put this clever feature into the side, which means the shape changes of the bag and it just expands out a little bit more, giving that little bit more room to your bag size overall. There's 2 pockets on the front of the bag and they are slip pockets. This design is made for no fuss. We're trying to make this easy for you to do, or as easy as possible. So the hardest thing that you will have to do in the entire construction of this bag is pop the zip on the inside of the bag. But don't worry, if you don't want to do that step, don't do it. If you just want to add an extra pocket on the inside, a slip pocket, do it. It's your bag, make it your own. So we've got these 2 pockets just here. Now let me take you inside the bag. It's a magnetic fastening again, and inside you will see it's a very big roomy bag. And then I've made this large pocket which I've just divided into, giving us a lovely large slip pocket. So if you did want to omit this step here, you can pop another slip pocket on the opposite side of the bag. It's your bag. So now I'm going to start working on making the bag for you, and I just want to reiterate to you that there is very little fabric that you really need to buy for this. So as a quick run through what you need: your outer fabric, the solid fabric that you can see behind me, you need 1/2 metre. For the pockets, we'll call the outer pocket pocket A, and the one that sits behind it pocket B, you need 2 fat quarters. The remnants of those will do for any linings, like pocket linings, you might need on the inside of the bag. For inside the bag, you need 1/2 metre of fabric, and then again, any leftovers will do for any sort of fabric, some pocket linings within there. You're going to need an 8-inch zip. If you have one in your stash that's longer, don't worry, go ahead and use it. We'll cut that down later and I'll show you how. You're going to need some thread. Now it's up to you whether you want a thread that's going to sort of melt into the fabric so you don't see it, or you want to make the most of top stitching. I will be top stitching, so I have gone for a stronger colour pink that will show up against my grey oilcloth that I'm using. Interfacings, you need 1/2 metre of H640. It's a fusible, so it's a little bit thicker, but it's very affordable. You can buy it by the 1/2 metre in most places, and you're also going to need some medium weight interfacing. Now all the fabrics and the materials, the threads and the straps I'm going to show you, I bought all of these items from Fabric Corner in Lincoln. They are aware of this pattern, so if there's anything that you'd like to recreate for yourself, do get in touch, and I will put a comment down below so you can see how you can get hold of Fabric Corner, and you can pop on the internet or give them a call and they'll be able to sort out these fabrics for you. These fabrics are part of a wider range, so there's some beautiful contrasts out there for you, but I just wanted to show you today my favourite combination. So very few pieces to bring together, and you'll be pleased to hear probably a little bit of repetition in some other places too. These are my fabric choices just here. Let me hold these up to show you. And these are part of the Dashwood range. I am using 100% cotton here, and then this is oilcloth, which is a Merchants and Mills that you can buy from Merchants and Mills, or you can get from Fabric Corner. So let's start by fusing all of our interface into all of the panels. So here's my 2 lining panel pieces, and they've got that fused to the inside. So I can now set them to one side. We don't interface any fabrics that are an oilcloth because it simply won't adhere to it. You only need to interface any of these pieces if it's a canvas or more of a woven fabric. So looking at our panel pieces, this is our slip pocket that will be going on the inside. I've used contrast there. One of those pieces needs interfacing. Our pocket that has the zip, these are my 2 panel pieces. Both of those need interfacing. Pocket B, there's 2 pieces. Interface 1 or 2, it's your choice. If you do both, the firmer it's going to be. Pocket A, again, fuse 1 or both. Your medium weight interfacing, 1/2 metre will be enough. So I'm going to do that now. So all my panel pieces have now been fused where required. So now we need to transfer all of our pattern markings. Now on the 2 lining pieces and on the 4 outer curve panel pieces, this being one of the outer curves, you will have some markings. Now this is just the sample paper piece, yours will look better than this, but you'll see you've got this V in here, and that is the darts that we need to create. So we need to transfer this dart to our panel pieces. So all I'm going to do is on the inside lining piece, I'm going to lay that down matching up to the curve, and I'm going to take some scissors and I'm just going to snip a little nick mark in. There we go. And it's within the seam allowance. Now the seam allowance is 1 centimetre. So as long as I just create my little mark within 1 centimetre, will be absolutely fine. And then I'm going to flip it over to this side, line it up, and again I can just snip those little markings into my fabric. Now also on these darts we have this point that we need to transfer. So I've pulled out a bright blue thread, and I'm just going to cut off a small length, and I'm just going to thread it through the eye of a needle. And all I'm going to do is go through the point of the dart, which is up here, and just thread it through. Now if we was doing a tailor's tack, we'd do more sort of loop action. It doesn't matter, we don't need to worry about any of that. We just want to leave some blue thread that we can refer to later on. So just hold that down, pull it out, and we've got our blue thread there for later on when we need it. So all you need to do is replicate that process on that corner, the same again on this other panel, and also on your 4 outside pieces. The final marking that we need to transfer at this stage is where our magnetic clasp will be going on the side panels of this outer bag. So all I do is I pushed a pin through this little hole marking to create just a little hole, and I'm going to lay it down on one of the pieces, lining it back up again. And getting a chalk pencil, I can just push some chalk through, and there we go. I have my little marking on the outside of the bag. There it is. So we just need to repeat that all the way around. We're now going to start working on the outer centre panel. Now you're going to see far less of me now and much more of the sewing, which is really, really important, I think. We've got outer pocket A, outer pocket B, and we've got one of the centre panels. But for now, we're going to be working on pocket A and pocket B. Now all you need to do is align these 2 pieces right side to right side, making sure that the edges are nice and straight to one another. So if you do that, I'll flip mine over because I want to start at this area here and work up to that long thin point, because I'm just going to take some of my pins, just pop a couple in place just to hold that still as I sew. And I will do both at the same time. I'll be using a 1 centimetre seam allowance, and I will reverse at the start and end of my sewing to secure those stitches. So I've got my stitch on a regular stitch of 2.5, and I've got a 1 centimetre seam allowance I'm working to. So I'm just going to start in just a little bit further, not working to the edge, and I'm going to reverse back to the edge now. And then I'll start working forward, working my way around the curve. And I should be repeating on the other pocket as well. I'm removing my threads as we go. So we've got our 2 seams sewn, and now we need to reduce the bulk in this seam allowance. So we need to just snip it down to that curve edge. So I'm just taking my scissors and working my way along, not cutting those threads, of course. And I'm about 2 millimeters away. If you prefer to, you can just cut little V-shaped notches in instead, but this works for me. And then all we're going to do is fold that fabric over, so it's now wrong. It is now, yeah, wrong side to wrong side, so we can see all that pretty outside fabric basically. And we're going to push that edge right out at the top, make sure our edges are nice and straight, and give it an iron to hold it all in shape and in place. So just repeat that on your other pocket. So that's now all ironed in place, and now I'm going to top stitch that uppermost curve area. The way that I've done that is I've moved my needle to the furthest right position, and I've increased the stitch length to a stitch length of 3. And now I'm just going to work along. I'm not going to reverse either end this time. I'm just going to slowly work my way along that edge. and repeat on the second pocket. So here we go, we have our completed front all done, and now all we need to do is add the sides on. Before we add our sides, we're going to now do the darts. So we're going to take one of our pieces and we're going to look for our little snip marks that we made, and we're going to make them match, bringing them right side to right side. And what we're going to do is we're going to finger press until we reach that little cotton thread mark that we made earlier on. And when we've done that, we can just add a little clip to hold it in place. If you want to repeat that for all of your pieces, and then we'll go to the machine and sew them in place. Do remember you need 2 pairs. So we should have darts going in opposite directions. So for example, that's 1 pair. I'm just taking out my top stitch thread, this pink colour, and I'm just switching it out now for a darker tone. The reason being that when the bag is made, we create these sort of, well, the seam lines. And when the seam lines have any kind of pressure put on them, then you will see the stitch threads showing. So I always choose a darker colour to sew these parts up with, and just try and stick to using the pink for when we want that added bit of detail. So I've just reset my machine now, and I'm ready to sew these darts. Now if you want to, you can draw a chalk line from your clipped edge up to the dart mark, but I'm going to go straight in, starting on the curved edge, dropping my needle down, and I'm going to reverse back to the edge of the fabric. And now I'm going to eyeball up to this blue stitch line, the blue thread line, should I say. As I get to the tip, it's up to you now how you want to finish. Some people will just let the thread run off and tie a knot. I always just lift my foot slightly and I reverse back inside the dart, and it creates a tiny little tick, and then I just snip my threads away. I'm going to do another one with you. So starting down and just inside that dart, let me bring that in a little bit more. I'm going to reverse to the edge and then sew up to my blue thread. I'm going to stop, lift my foot to turn the fabric, and I'm going to reverse inside the dart. No need to reverse or do any more at that point. Snip all your threads, and this is what that looks like. So you can see there where I've just reversed inside. So repeat that for each of your darts. So here's my 2 side panel pieces that I've just done, and here's those blue threads, which I can now remove just by gently tugging them out. And now we need to join these side panels to this centre piece, and we're going to do exactly the same on the back, so you just need to repeat this step. So you take your long straight edges and flip them over so that they are right side to right side. Start at the top and use your clips again. If you're going to pin, you can, but you must pin within that 1 centimetre seam allowance. But just clip down the side, and then we're going to sew at a 1 centimetre seam allowance, reversing at both ends. Do that 4 times, 2 on the front, 2 on the back. So those side panels have now been sewn on the back and on the front. I'm just going to set the back to one side for now. Whatever we do on the front, we will repeat on the back. So we've now got this panel here. Doesn't it look beautiful? So now all we're going to do is we're going to finger press this seam allowance we've just sewn. We're going to finger press all that fabric nice and flat. We don't really want to be putting an iron onto this oilcloth. Finger pressing will just do an equally good job. Now I'm just going to talk you through this next process before I do it. We're going to be sewing on the grey and we're going to be top stitching. We're going to increase our stitch length to a 3 and we're going to sew at approximately 1 to 2 mil from the edge in a nice straight row. We don't need to reverse at either end. So we're going to do that on this piece and then we're going to do the same on the back panel. As one side done, just repeat the other. So just to talk you through how I've attached the handles. Each of your handles is approximately 22 inches long. If you want to make them longer or shorter, that's entirely up to you. But all you need to do is take each piece. I'm just looking at the outside front of the bag. And all you need to do is pin it to the edge of your curved area and just clip it in place and stitch across. I sew 3 times here, just reversing across, just as I know it's nice and secure. And the important thing is, as you lay this down to pin it in place, just make sure that this strap isn't twisted. So when you've sewn that, there the handles all done. Okay, so now we're going to move directly on to getting the magnetic clasps into the front and the back of our bag. Now you'll remember early on we did this little chalk mark just here. It has faded out a little bit, but I can still see what I need to do. We need our magnetic clasps and these come in pairs like so. So we get a male and a female. That's the female, that's the male. There's no right or wrong way of doing this. This is just my preferred style. So I've got a chalk pencil to use here and I'm going to take one of the washers that comes with the magnetic part. I'm going to take that over to where my first marking is and I'm going to centre the whole of the washer with the hole that I drew, and then I'm going to draw 2 chalk lines in just like that. And those chalk marks will indicate where we need to cut. So I'm just going to do the same on the other side. Mark those in place. And then I'm going to take my quick unpick and I'm just going to slide it in and do 2 small little cuts. Please be careful, they only need to be small. Don't let it run away with you, else you're going to be a little bit sad. I've also got some scrap interfacing, something that's a little bit firmer. And I'm going to also cut some little markings out of that too. Just going to use some scissors for that, or some little snips. And on the front, I shall put the male part, if I can find them. Here's a male. And we're just going to push that through the little holes that we've created. Just wiggle it in. I do my holes quite small. I prefer to make them bigger if I need to, but that's just in place. I'm going to go over to the reverse now. And I'm going to take that little piece that I've just cut and I'm going to pop that over the top. That's just to give it an extra little bit of strength, that's all. Pop your washer onto the top and then you can bend these prongs either inwards or outwards. Again, I don't think there's a right or a wrong way. I'm just going to pop mine inwards. So that's one part done. So now I'm going to move along to the other side and repeat that process. So I've cut those holes already, push that through. That's the wrong side we're looking at. Cut some little nicks in my spare bit of interfacing. If you've got any Decaville, anything like that, you can use that too. Washer over the top and push it in. So those are the male parts of the bag done. And now we just need to repeat on the back of the bag and pop the females on. The outside of the bag is nearly done. So all we now need to do is sew all of the outside of the bag just here. Let me just get a better view for you. So the way I do this, I go down to the darts first here, and I make sure that one of the darts is going one way and one is going the other, opposite directions. And I'm just going to line those up at the edge, and I'm going to clip. I'm then going to go directly to my other dart on the opposite side and do the same, clip it in place. I then go to these lines that we created earlier on here, and I make sure that they line up. And when they're lined, I clip. Same on this side, clip. And when that's all done, I will go to the top of the bag and clip. Opposite side again, clip. And now you can clip all the way around. Then all you need to do is sew a 1 centimetre seam allowance starting at the top, reversing all the way around, reverse at the end, and the outside of your bag is complete. So it's exciting. We've just finished the outside of the bag, and here it is. I've just hung it up for a little while I go and grab myself some lunch. But this is the outside of the bag. I think it looks really, really pretty. Lovely, lovely outside pockets just here in this beautiful dashwood fabric. How divine is that? And I really, really like this combination. It goes so well just here, doesn't it? So this one has been lined with self fabric, so exactly the same. This has been lined with exactly the same. We've got my own little badge just here. We've got some beautiful magnetic clasps that we've got in. Darts on both sides, which has given the bag depth. And some pretty straps in place. So when we will return, we will start on making the inside of the bag. It's time to pop in the pocket with the zip. Now it's optional if you want to do this bit, but I'm going to take you through a very slow process of how to do this. I've taken one piece of my pocket lining. I've got one of the panels. You will have put the darts together by now, but I'm just going to leave it flat so you can have a better view of what I'm doing. I'm going to flip this piece over like so, and you'll see it's got the interfacing facing up towards me. I'm going to lay my pattern piece on top just here. I'm going to fold this pattern piece back until I reach the first line just here. Now I'm going to take a small ruler, I'm going to lay it down, and I'm going to use a piece of bright yellow chalk, and I'm going to draw a line straight across. Don't worry if it's too long at this stage. And then going to fold back to the bottom line. So that's moved, just line it back up again. Now you can just measure all of this out if you wish to do so. But if you find it easier to do it this way, then it is a bit of a go-to method for me. I'm now going to fold in along the ends of those markings and just draw my chalk line, and I'm going to fold back on this end piece here as well. So that box, the solid black outside box, is now transferred onto this pattern piece in yellow chalk. I'm now going to take my inner lining piece, and I'm going to lay this piece so it's right side to the right side. I'm going to make sure that this piece is centered by folding it in half and giving it a little finger press. I'm going to fold this piece and I'm going to give it a little finger press. And it'll give me a little crease line that I can just line that up to, like so. Open it back up again. And we're going to measure. And that's just under 2 inches. I'm happy with that. So when that's in place, take a few pins and just pin around your chalk box. We'll then go to the machine and we will sew all the way around our yellow box. So 4 pins is enough just for that step. So that is now being sewn in place. I have sewn it with a darker thread than I would usually use, just as you can see it nice and well. And now we're going to cut a line straight along here. Now if I show you on the pattern piece, you'll see there's these V marks. We're only going to cut up to the edge of the V just here at both ends. And then we're going to snip across diagonally up to the thread, but not through the thread. I'm going to fold it in half just to start it, so as I can get my scissors in, like so. There we go. And across, but not through. Across, but not through. Getting very, very close there. That's done. And now we're ready to post this through to the other side of the fabric. For best results, this is how I do mine. Before I push it through, I iron my pieces towards the hole, all 4 sides. I find that by applying a bit of heat, it allows me to finger press everything in place when it goes through, and it gives a better, neater finish. So just push that through and it should sit nice and flat. If there's any problems or puckering in the corners, just check, could you have cut one tiny little bit more further in? So when you're happy with that, start applying a little bit of heat and press it nice and flat. The step we're doing now is what I would consider the hardest step of all. That bit just there. So if that makes you feel better, you've just managed to get through the hardest step of all. I'm going to remove my mat out of the way, and now I'm going to go and grab my zip. So the fabric's facing upwards, the zip is facing upwards with the pull on the left hand side. Take it underneath and lay it under the zip, under the fabric lining, making sure that the pull is on show. Centre it and then use a few pins just to hold it all in place. Turn it around. And then I'll go back to my machine. I will pop in my contrast thread again, the pinker tone. I'll increase my stitch length to a number 3. And working close to the edge of the spotty fabric, I will work my way around. When you get to come to this point where you're going to sew over the zip tape, don't worry, it's only plastic. Your machine will be more than happy to cope with that. So here we go. A couple of reverse stitches just to start out. The side of the foot is actually running against the side of the zip tape. I'm stopping just there because I'm going to lift the foot up and I'm going to pull that zip, pull back, allowing for better manoeuvring around this zip tape. Just trying to bring those ends together there. That's what I was doing. Rotate around. So now we're going to sew over these plastic ends. Beautiful. And I'm going to work my way slowly back. That's meeting where we started. Reverse stitch to secure. And it's in. Our zip is in. So here we go. Just remove what we don't need. And there we go. So there's our pocket. Now all you need to do is take your other pocket piece, place it right side down, so it's nice side to nice side, and pin those edges together. Just a few pins just to secure it. And then we're going to take this to the sewing machine and we're going to sew all 4 edges. So take your pocket and bring it over to the machine. And make sure the bag lining stays out of the way. I'm going to reverse to secure and sew to the end. Rotate and work your way down. As you work your way down, the bag's now in the way. Flip it all so it's on the left hand side again. So it's all over there. Come to the bottom. Rotate and flip all of your lining out of the way. Always on. I could feel my pull there. If it bothered me, I could just move that across. It's absolutely fine. To the bottom, back round to join our starting line. Our slip pocket, our zip pocket. There we go, all done. The hardest bit is done. So we're now going to make up the slip pockets for the internal lining. So I've got my 2 pieces here, making sure that the direction is both sort of pointing upwards. And I'm going to place one piece right side to right side with the other piece. And I'm going to pin all the way around. So I'm going to pop a pin in a different direction just down here. It's about 3 inches long, and I've changed the pins to tell me that I need to do something a bit different. So I will start there, reverse, and work my way around, stopping at this red pin, reverse, and then I'll be able to turn it all through. Before I turn it through, I will cut across the diagonals of each of these corners to give it a neater finish. So that's all turned through, so now I just need to give it a jolly good press and make sure I've got a nice crisp edge right at that top edge. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to top stitch this top edge. So with my contrast pink thread, stitch length of 3, I will be just doing a neat row of stitches close to that edge to give it a nice finish before we finally take this piece to our lining and secure it all in place. So I've top stitched my slip pocket here, and now we need to attach our pocket to our lining panel. Now if you're nervous about this next step, do think about putting this panel onto your other lining piece that hasn't got the zip in, but I am going to place mine beneath this zip. The reason why I say this about the nervous bit is because you have got this pocket piece here you need to keep out of the way. So all I suggest is pull it up out of the way so it's up there in a different direction, and even if you want to, pop a couple of pins in to try and keep it staying out of the way. That's all you need to do. Now all I'm going to do is fold this in half to get myself a little crease mark again, so it's halfway, and I'm going to line that up there, halfway of the lining, and I'm just going to put a few pins in to start securing this in place again. And at the halfway point, I'm just going to line up and draw a chalk mark to create 2 equal sized pockets. So now what I'm going to do is start here, reverse to lock it, work my way down to the bottom corner, work my way across, up, across by a couple of stitches, back down, across, up to finish. So at this point I want to stop and admire actually, because it's going to be hard to see a full image of the inside of this bag again. So let's just take a moment just to appreciate and look at those. Really, really pretty. What beautiful work. So we've got our 2 pockets just here, and then we've got the zip pocket that sits just behind it. How beautiful is that? Lovely. So now what we need to do is add our magnetic fastening just here that's going to keep the bag closed. We're going to do very similar to what we've already done before. Fold the bag in half to find our central point. Just that. Take our little washer again, as before, and we're going to draw our little markings, our cut markings. Hard to see now with its pink against pink. We are 1 inch down. I'm going to go down as far as I can with this. It will make it easier when we come to do top stitching at the end. Now when we do these little cuts here, just be mindful that you don't want to cut through that bit just there. I realise you can't see so well there, but if you just push through there, that's through. Go to the back and then pop in those extra bits that we did. I can't see my own little cut marks there. There we go. Washer on and push it in. Give it a little push down. Just going to trim that bit down. There. And that's one side done. Done. So now we need to make the other one match. So we can obviously measure down by folding in half, little crease mark again, and I'm going to measure down here. So 1.5 inches down is where I want my little cuts to be. Just in the region of there. I'm going to pop my little slip marks in again, and then you will find that this all lines up beautifully and the bag closes. So now all you need to do is exactly as we did with the front panels, lining up those dark points there, top and bottom, and then stitching all the way around. So we're on the final steps now of putting this bag together. So now you need to take your lining panel here with the pockets at the bottom just here on the underneath, and I'm going to slide in the exterior of the bag with the pockets at the top. We're going to make sure that the straps always stay downwards. And we're going to start using some clips to hold everything in place. So we've just got to really make sure those straps stay down. So I'm going directly to the edges here, just on the sides, make sure those seams line up, and I'm going to clip it in place. I'm going to go to the curves here, line them up and clip in place. Over to the next curve. To the side edge, those side seams all lining up beautifully. Clip onto the next 2 curves, straps downwards, line those up and clip. And then you can go ahead and you can clip in between, making sure everything all matches up. And then it'll be a case of, with a 1 centimetre seam allowance, working your way around the entire top edge of the bag, sewing everything in. Might feel a bit awkward getting around this, but just take it steady. You stop 1 centimetre away from the edge of these curves and then turn your fabric around. You can gently work your way around that curved edge, no problem. Bulky at the back of the machine there. And you would sew slower than I am doing. So that's all been sewn in. So now we need to reduce some of this bulk. The way we do that is, as before, anywhere where there's a corner, we're just going to cut across it, but not through the stitches. And then in particular, this curved area here, if we need to, we will just reduce some of that bulk just by approximately half. Now there isn't a lot in here, and because the oilcloth's quite soft, I'm not really too worried, to be honest. I'm only going to take off a little bit. My iron's ready to do some ironing when it's all pulled through. There we go. So now we're just going to pull it all through. Now it might feel a little bit awkward, just take it steady. Don't force anything. If your hole's a bit too small, just get in there and just cut it open just a little bit more. But just take your time, there's no rush with this bit. And eventually it'll just all start popping through quite nicely. Now before I do anything else, I'm just going to push out some of these areas here. A little thread there that I didn't get rid of. Let's get that gone. I'm going to push all this through so it's nice and flat. Lovely. So when you're satisfied with that everything's been stitched nice, we just need to sew up this hole, which you can do by hand or by the machine. I'm just going to get my hands in, gentle pull, and I will be using the machine for this bit. So the hole's now been sewn, so all that's left to do is to push the lining into the bag area so it's in position. And then we're going to tidy up that very top edge. So push those corners right into one another now. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I adore this dashwood fabric. It is gorgeous. Okay, just going to pull those handles out so we can see the shape, that curved shape. There we go. And then it's up to you if you want to use the iron, but I'm going to keep the iron away from this fabric. But the idea now is we just want to sort of roll those edges to the top, as far up to the top as we can, without exposing this lining to the outer. And then just pop some clips in just to secure it for the time being. Again, because we've not been using really heavy duty fabrics, even while we've got this big bulky area here now, your sewing machine is going to get through it. You might want to slow down just a little, but you won't have any trouble whatsoever. Just make sure you don't need to do this. If you want to leave it out at this point, you can, but it certainly will stop your linings from rolling outwards. Just Keep manipulating that upwards, kind of doing a rolling thing with my fingers. There we go. And there. So my needle's under, and I'm going to go over this bulky area first. So like I say, I'm just going to go slowly. It's gone over beautifully. If you needed to, you could hold the back and just gently pull it as you went. Now do you remember, as you work your way around, do keep these straps outwards this time. And you'll realise that by now we've sewn these handles about 5 times. Just slow down as we get to that section there. Just keep rotating your bag around, slowly and gently. We want this bit to look delicious. Slowing down over that join. There we go. Gave it a very gentle pull that time. Don't worry about squashing your bag. It will bounce back perfectly quick. And it's all done. We did it. We made the Elizabeth bag, and here it is, all finished and hung up, ready to be used. Now, if we go back to a very early part of the video, I just want to mention there was just one teeny weeny tiny step that I missed out, which I did go back and do. It is in the details of the instructions. I just forgot to do it on here, and I went back and did it at a later point. And that was just sewing 1 row of stitches across the bottom here before the sides were joined to the front just here. The reason why I put that row of stitches in there, it's really just on a practical point really, that when we're using our bags, if we put things into the bag down here, they can slide to the bottom. Now if you forget, don't worry, it's not going to be a problem at all, but just handy to have that little line in there as a practical element later on. So here we go, Elizabeth. I'm so proud of it. I absolutely love these fabrics, and thank you to Fabric Corner for supplying these fabrics to me. So like I say, it's the Dashwood range just here. Number of fabrics available in these colourways that all complement and go together, absolutely beautiful. And the straps came from there too, available in a few different colours, as did the lining. And like I say, I've added my own little label there for interest, and the magnetic clasps down the sides and inside just to expand the bag out a little bit more. So let me just open that up now. Pop. There we go. Forward, and there we go. The beautiful inside of the Elizabeth bag. How cool is that?